Alright, so we're coming together today to finalize our lesson that we're gonna do on Thursday.
Mhm.
So let's briefly just kind of go through what we're gonna do as a unit and then branching out, and then we'll get into going into details for each one of us. We'll get up and kind of go through everything. So as a unit, we've decided to do the probability unit 1, and we're using Six Flags as our theme, so basically day of the theme park. And each one of us have our own little things that we're doing. So Monique and Ashley have incorporated admissions, and they've worked together to come up with a theme. I've come up with a way to incorporate like a snack, a lunch break, at the park. And then Steve has came up with an exiting strategy that he's going to use to incorporate. And we'll get into more elaborate details. So I'm using PowerPoint and M&Ms for my material, and just going to kind of go through the 35 minutes that we have. And Ashley, you're going to...
Yeah, I'm gonna do the fundamental counting principles, which are the additional rule and the multiplication rule. Also, I'm gonna introduce events. I'm gonna introduce the concept of an event, the concept of a probability experiment, and the sample space, which is the set of all outcomes. And that's the students will be enumerating, they'll be counting the set of all possible outcomes of some experiment.
I'll be showing how to construct tree diagrams. So we'll be using the rides, games, a setup of an itinerary to where we're going to construct different tree diagrams so that we can pretty much construct them and see how or why we have the possibilities that we do.
Alright, and I will be discussing the probability of compound independent events. And to do this, we'll need to differentiate between simple events, and I also want to focus how the probability of one simple event does not affect the probability of another simple event. And we will use an activity in which students flip coins to find the probability of a compound event, and we'll compare that the results of the experiment to the expected results in our calculation.
So as a group, how are we going to make sure that we still are doing our individual parts, but we're keeping it together as a group? So is the theme enough, or is there little aspects that we should, piggyback on, or
I suppose in the closing of our presentation, and also in the opening of each individual's presentation, we can sort of transition. So I can say, well, Monique just talked about how we can calculate the probability of a simple event, but what if we want to calculate the probability of flipping heads twice? How would we do that? And sort of use that.
I think that mine, Monique's facilitates mine, and then at the end of mine, I kind of lead into the probabilistic mindset, like going into Adrian's. So it's kind of already,
So we've got it in the
we
right
definitely
flow,
got
so
the
it's
flow.
still
Yeah.
connecting as a group. Okay.
And we also have to be mindful to refer back to. So like with Ashley, he's doing the counting principle. He said, okay, well let's look at our tree diagrams and let's see. So if we do the formula, do we still get the same outcome? Just so they can have a connection to how it's growing.
So the tree diagram basically is our foundation of this whole unit, because each one of us actually can go back and refer to the tree diagram.
Yeah.
So we should each be able to do that and kind of let the students understand that, oops, if I forget the counting principles, I can always go back to my foundation of that tree diagram.
Sounds good.
So are there any other ideas or, things that we might want to think about as we're developing our lesson plans and critiquing and finalizing?
I think we should just continue upon the track that we're going. Today we've gained a lot of clarity on what we're going to do, and from here we should just write it out and see what happens.
Okay, so we're gonna now, I guess we're gonna cover our lesson plans individually, and then we'll critique and each one, and then that'll be the end of it. We'll wrap it up and go.
Sounds good.
All right.
Anybody else have anything?
Nope. That's
We'll bring this thing to a close.